Potter's House, formerly Hibbert House, was erected by Thomas Hibbert, a wealthy young English merchant, in 1755. It was built as Hibbert's dwelling house on the corner of what is now Duke and Beeston Streets as a result of a wager between himself and 3 other merchants to see who could build the most beautiful house in Kingston. Inside the house, there are several noteworthy features. These include the fine brickwork found in the basement and the exquisite staircase that leads from the ground floor to the first.
Was a bachelor until he died, but he said to have had a long-term relationship with a black woman, perhaps a slave, and who he fathered children with. And this would have been the custom of many planters and many rich whites at the time, to, instead of marrying a woman of their own race, they would have a long-term relationship with a black woman. So he did that. And right, so in addition to that, he was a merchant. And in the 1700s, when you're a merchant, more than likely you're doing things in relation to the slave trade. So he was a slave trader, a trader of enslaved Africans, and things that Africans would have produced, such as sugar, rum, molasses, and all the other agricultural products. So he would buy and sell things, facilitating the trade between Britain and Jamaica. In addition to that, he was a money lender. So, having gotten some money, he would have been lending money and so forth. And he was also a property owner. He owned property here. At the time, it was called Stanton Street, and it's now called Duke Street. But he also owned property on Mark Lane, Water Lane, Orange Street, and other places in Kingston. The capital of Jamaica was briefly transferred to Kingston. And while it was transferred to Kingston, the assembly met here in this house, right downstairs, which in a sense almost foreshadowed the coming of the transfer of the capital from Spanish Town to Kingston 100 years later. Right, so he was the Speaker of the House. He was a public and known figure. I think, at a number of levels for us to preserve these structures as far as possible. From an aesthetic point of view, a lot of these things are very unique. They don't exist in many other places. In addition to that, our ancestors would have invested a significant effort and energy into these structures, and they ought to be maintained. But these structures tell a story about us as a people, who we are, important things that have happened. And if we destroy the evidence of these things, we are going to be lost without the memory of these things. So history and the evidence and these heritage sites act as effective memory banks of our people, of our society, of who we are as a country. And we need to preserve them as evidence for future generations to help us understand who we are as a people, what are some of the things that have happened to determine where we are as a people, and hopefully help to give us some direction as to where we should go. So it is very important that we preserve them, and preservation not does not only mean to fix it up and to ensure it looks good, but to also tell our people, let them know, because if they know, then they too will be interested in them and understanding them, but also want to protect them for future generations.
George William Gordon at one point during the whole saga with the trial. He was here, and from here he left to Morant Bay where he was hanged, right? Governor Eyre was here, and all of that took place here. Afterwards, it was used by the military as a headquarters for the military, and it went back and forth in private hands, and at one point, 1962, House of Parliament. Prior to that, it was where the Parliament met, right? And after that, Parliament went to their new building at Gordon House, and it went through different phases. The police department had it at one point. We came here in the 80s, right? But I think it is very suitable because of the nature of our business, right? And there are some deficiencies in terms of operating an office, but in terms of the nature of our business, it suits us in that regard.
Record keeping is critical for anyone to understand what transpired before, what happened in the past, why were decisions taken, what circumstances, what events, who are the important families, what are the important issues, what impacted the country, why we had an outbreak of whatever disease. All these help to be determined whenever we go back and review the records. But if we have no records, what will we review? So record keeping, the preservation of the records of a country, these are important to document critical events such as a massive fire, an earthquake, any important individual, whatever happened to their life. To recognize the information which is stored or preserved in an archive. All these records, they are primary source information. They are first-hand information. And it is critical because in the publishing environment, you get second-hand information, secondary source. The primary source allows you to find the evidential component. So, a clock which stops at the point of an earthquake. It's real evidence, hard facts. Similarly, the records, for example, in Spanish Town, which speaks about the slaves who were purchased, pictures of the advertisement in the paper, these are evidential records, and that's the value, the most critical value of these records to support history. Source material, they document the accounts of heroes, the accounts of martyrs, monuments, events. These are so critical to the development of the country. It helps to inform what took place, how it took place, and what to or not to do. It also helps publishers, writers, researchers to have a source to go to, a first and evidential source to go to. So it's a good go-to source to prove that an event took place. For example, let's look at the concept of nanny. Did you know that many Jamaicans think that this nanny persona is just a myth? Yes. However, if you visit the Jamaica Archives in Spanish Town, you will find there a land patent which was issued by the British government of the day. And this is evidence that 1, a nanny existed, 2, land was bequeathed to a people, to the black people who were willing to withstand the British enslavement. Now, what was very intriguing is the fact that women during that era were treated as chattel. Yet here is a black, strong woman who was able to counter the British, brought them to their knees enough for them to enter into an agreement with her and her provide some online services. So these online services may be directly just for individuals who are just searching for information, so they will be able to access our database. But we are also considering having a service called a Premier service, where individuals would be able to access our collection and pay. So we'd have for free or for fee services. But we are looking at having online services for anyone who desires to get or access our rich heritage, documentary